Commissioner, you were a strong supporter of stop and frisk. You and Mayor Bloomberg, and the crime is still coming down, but there's a perception, and perception, as we know, is very important in the world of politics. Crime is down, but there's a perception that things are returning to the old way of business. A mistake to pull back on stop and frisk?
Oh, well, that's a whole other issue. Let me just give you some of my thoughts on stop. It is not a panacea. It is not a cure-all by any means, but it is a tool that every police officer should have and does have throughout the country. It is based on a Supreme Court decision. It's based on statutes that exist throughout the country. I thought the decision in the case was very bad. If you read it, it calls out for an appeal, and it wasn't appealed, and it should have been. First of all, this litigation started in 1999, not recent, a long time ago, and I can give you a lot of details of it. But basically, the crux of the argument was that in order to determine racial profiling, you can use a census-based scheme or database, which makes no sense at all, because that means that, carried to its logical conclusion, half the stops would be female, because that's what census is made of. What we proposed, we being the police department, we proposed that we use a RAND Corporation study, which says that in order to tell if racial profiling is ongoing, you take the description given by the victims of violent crime of their perpetrators. In other words, the police are out of it, and take that as a percentage. Basically, 75% of the perpetrators of violent crime, 75% in New York City, are described as being African American. 53% of the people stopped historically are African American. So, there was some criticism. Some people used the term understop. That's not a good term, but it certainly comports to the people who will ultimately be victimized in this type of environment where this tool is withheld are communities of color. 97% of the shooting victims in New York City are Black or Latino. 90% of the murder victims are Black or Latino. Under the Bloomberg administration, there were 9,500 fewer murders than there were in the previous 12 years. And of course, the vast majority of victims, unfortunately, but historically, are people of color. So many lives were saved. The other thing I just want to point out is the numbers were high, 600 and something thousand. People thought that was an ordinarily high number. It amounts to less than one stop a week per patrol officer. Everything in New York City is bigger. We have 400,000 arrests a year, 500,000 summons. There's 23 million citizen contacts a year. So it showed a skewed view of what was going on the street. There was no jury trial, just one judge did it. And there's a lot of other aspects to it. But I think it's unfortunate that the tool is apparently not being used when some police officers think it should be used, because the ultimate loser in all of this are people, mostly people in communities of color.
Commissioner, I'm running out of time. 2 questions. I want to move as fast as I can. Longest serving police commissioner. You first served under Mayor Dinkins, also under Mayor Bloomberg. You then left after the first time, assigned to run the operations in Haiti. Then you worked for the federal government, head of the Customs Department with the feds, and then you came back to the NYPD. Is it possible that you might return to the NYPD for a third time?
No, I doubt it, seriously. I'm very happy where I am. I'm happy with my accomplishments, and I'm ready for new adventure.
You served again as police commissioner twice. In your words, because we hear a lot written about you, we see a lot written about you, what was your biggest success? What are you most proud of, and what do you look back at?
Oh, it's hard to say. I think you need sort of the benefit of time before you can make that sort of determination. I think just as being a part of the Bloomberg administration, I think we're proud of the fact that crime has been driven down to record lows. We haven't had a successful terrorist attack here. I think we're acknowledged to have the most robust counterterrorism program of any city, probably anywhere. We had to do that because New York is the number one target. So, and I would also say relations with the community. Contrary to what came out in the campaign and what you might read certain places, I think I had a very strong relationship with the communities of New York City.
No doubt about that.
I would say those sort of 3 C's: crime reduction, a counterterrorism program, and community relations.
So, Commissioner, just explain this to me as we are wrapping up here. And I've seen this before, but when police officers are in riot gear, why do officers, we saw this in Missouri, but why do officers sometime with their batons start beating on their shields? Is that training?
In some quarters, you see it sort of picked up. I think it's a form of intimidation, or they believe they're somehow going to make the crowd be more hesitant as far as taking action against them, that somehow they're going to influence them to do what the officers want. I'm not even certain if it is part of the training, but I've seen it done in places.
You told us yesterday you thought seriously about running for mayor, and also you felt it was a mistake to release the videotape. Just elaborate on those two one more time for me, Commissioner.
Well, as far as running for mayor, I just didn't think at the end of the day that it was the right thing for myself and my family. As far as releasing the video is concerned, I think you could be interpreted, and was interpreted, as an effort to, as they say, dirty up the victim or the person who was shot in a confrontation with the police, and that never plays well. And if in fact that information could have gotten out in a lot of different ways, but for the government to release it when they did, what number one, it was premature, but it was obviously, I think, done in an effort to show the reason perhaps for the confrontation, but then surprisingly said that the police officer involved did know about the confrontation in the store, didn't know about the alleged theft of cigars. So, it's just very confusing, and it gets back to the point that you need legal advice, legal counsel in these types of situations. It appears to me that there was very little of that.